Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Waiting Room, the show that challenges you to thrive and not just survive in every area of your life. This is your host, Ruem, and in this podcast, we'll be talking about the realities of waiting in every season of life. Remember, it's not just about the wait, it's about how we wait, and waiting well is what matters. In this episode, I'll be talking about good and bad money habits. Okay, let's talk about money, people. Face it, how much money we have or how little money we have affects our overall well-being. A great deal of stress in our lives and anxiety and uncertainty comes from not having enough money and trying to figure out how to make more money. Statistics even show that most breakdowns in marriages start over money, and some relationships even start off in debt. They pay ridiculous amounts of money for their wedding day and not really invest in the actual marriage, and that sort of sets them up for failure. You know, there are couples out there who are more concerned with who pays for the first date than addressing their impulsive spending habits that are going to affect them more in the long run. So I'm going to talk about 10 healthy money habits and 10 unhealthy, which is really like the flip of the healthy one. So if you're not practicing healthy habits, then by default you have unhealthy habits. All right, so starting with the healthy ones. You have healthy money habit if you spend less than you earn. So it is important to live below your means. It's simple math, you guys. If, for example, your take home is $3,000 a month, all your expenses should be less than $3,000 in order to live below your means. So if you're spending more than you're making, that's going to cause problem, which brings me to the next healthy habit. It is paying down debt. So debt is accrued when you are spending more than you're earning. So you're spending on credit or taking out loans. It is important to pay off that debt in a timely manner. You need to be strategic. Whether you pay off the highest interest or the highest balance first, as long as you have a plan, but you need to be paying something and not just ignoring it or avoiding it and pretending like it's not there, because that's not a healthy place to be. Another healthy money habit is to grow and invest your money and build a savings account. That does take discipline, and a lot of times you can't start saving as much as you'd like to until your debt is paid off. But I think, just starting with a little savings and then adding more once you have paid off more debt. Another healthy money habit is looking for ways to increase your income. So we live in the time of side hustles. A lot of people I know have their primary source of income, and then they have another means of income, whether it's ride sharing or delivering or a product that they offer, service that they offer on the side. So, just people are trying to increase their income and always looking for opportunities to do that. And there's so many opportunities available. So if you have a skill, you can use that to provide a service, and that could bring in a secondary source of income. Habit number 5, maintaining an emergency fund. So things happen, cars break down, you get sick, or child gets sick, or something comes up that requires a lot of money. And if you don't have that buffer, that's where we end up getting into debt, because you have to use your credit card or take out a loan. If you're in that position, try to get an emergency fund first and then work on your savings. That way, like I said, if life happens, you are not completely thrown off track. Another good money habit is setting financial goals, reviewing your progress on a regular basis, and tracking your money. It amazes me how so many people do not budget and do not track how much money they're spending or where their money is going. And it's almost like their pockets have holes because they can't really tell you where their money went, but they just know that they don't have as much as they thought they had or as much as they should. So writing down your budget and setting goals is so helpful. I know it helped me when I started to actually educate myself on budgeting and being a better steward of my finances. There's a quote by Peter Drucker. He says, "What gets measured gets managed." So if you track your goals, track your progress, you're more likely going to be able to manage your income and manage your expenses a lot better. So whatever you want to use, whether it's an app, there's so many helpful apps out there, or good old-fashioned pen and paper, make sure you are doing something to manage your finances. Another healthy habit is to budget for extra expenses and save for the unexpected. So kind of like the emergency fund, but you can set up like specific accounts like, okay, this is for the car, just in case you have to get new tires, or this is for the house if you have to buy a new refrigerator down the road or something like that. So setting up specific savings and budgeting for extra expenses helps. Pay bills on time. If you don't pay your bills on time, that's where you end up getting late fees and interest and all of these other added expenses to the bill, which can be avoided. So make sure you are paying your bills on time. Shop for sales and discounts. I am a clearance shopper. Usually when I go to a store, I head straight to the back clearance rack and I'm always looking for a deal. You know, it's just, I kind of feel cheated if I have to pay full price for an item. I am a bargain shopper all the way. The last healthy habit is learn from your setbacks. If you're like me, you've made some financial mistakes, but the thing is to learn, is to move forward and to grow and not put yourself in that situation again. So learn from your setbacks, fix bad habits, and educate yourself. You have to take the initiative to learn budgeting and to learn to be disciplined and learn about credit and how to get out of debt and how to improve your credit and things like that. So that's gonna take initiative on your end. It just doesn't happen. All right, so now we're gonna look at 10 unhealthy money habits that need to be broken in order for you to thrive in your finances. Living above your means. So that means you are spending more than you're making. And it's okay to downsize, people. A lot of times I feel like people's insecurities cause them to spend more on things they don't need or live in an area because of image. But you know, live where you can afford, spend what you can afford. You don't have to buy an expensive car if you can afford it, or live in that neighborhood just because of the image it brings. Live within your means, downsize if you have to. Another bad habit is not paying off debt. So you cannot ignore your debt. You cannot pretend like it's not there, because with debt comes interest, and that accumulates over time, and you end up paying back more than you had actually borrowed. So pay off your debt, whether it's high interest first or high balance first, as long as you are paying off something. Another bad habit is not sticking to a budget. So not tracking your money, not tracking where your money is going, how much you're spending is not good. Not having a savings account is a bad habit. Whether it's saving $5 a week or $10 a week, starting that habit of putting money aside that you won't be spending immediately. And then the more you do it, the more you'll want to do it, and you'll see that your savings will be growing and you'll be more motivated to put more money aside and create that buffer. Another bad habit is lifestyle creep or lifestyle inflation. This is a phenomenon that occurs when you've had an increase in income. So let's say you had a pay raise, but then your spending also increases, but more than what your income did. You know, you get that promotion and you're like, hey, I have more money. And then now you're spending more on food, or you buy that extra toy that you really don't need, or you sign up for this subscription, and then before you know it, you're back into the cycle of spending more than you are making. So whenever you do get an increase in income, leave your expenses just the way they are. So that way you have a larger margin and you have a larger bottom line instead of increasing your spending along with the increased income. Another bad habit is not setting goals or having a clear plan. I'm sure you might have heard the quote, failing to plan is planning to fail. So if you don't have a clear plan, if you're not setting your goals, guess what? If you aim at nothing, you're going to achieve nothing. Set up a plan, write down your goals, whether it's 6 months or 1 year or 3 years. It kind of gives you a direction of where you're going. Now, that doesn't mean that you're always going to hit every goal. But it does kind of have you facing the right way and going the right direction, and you're a lot closer than not setting your goals. Bad money habit number 7 is unnecessary subscriptions. So there's a subscription for almost everything. You have subscriptions for meal kits, you have subscriptions for entertainment, music, for basically anything. And some of those subscriptions you really don't need. Are they really a necessity? So when it comes to spending, ask yourself, is this a need or a want? So your needs obviously are more important, and that's your priority. But if it's just a want, like, oh yeah, it would be nice to have that, Spotify subscription, you can save a few extra dollars every month, which by the end of the year adds up, by canceling that subscription and just putting up with the ads. I mean, the ads are really not that bad for the most part. Just kind of reevaluate and cancel whatever you need to cancel and put that money towards another goal. Spending too much on groceries and eating out all the time is another bad habit. Quite often people spend a lot more on food than they need to, and then a lot of food goes to waste because they're not really budgeting or analyzing how much they eat within a week or 2 weeks. So they buy too much and then they end up having to throw a lot of it away. So look at your grocery habits. How much are you spending? How much are you eating? How much are you throwing away? And make necessary adjustments. So there's some things that you can cut out if you're not going to eat it in get to it in time, and so that way you don't spend extra money. And eating out. So eating out is we live in a society where it's just quick and we want convenience. We want it now. We want our dinner now. We don't have time. We're not making time to make a meal and sit down and eat. But that does add up. I prefer cooking at home. I like knowing what's in my food and how it's prepared. And I prefer, spending money on groceries than I do eating out. So if you do prefer eating out, then you probably want to spend less on groceries, because it doesn't make sense to spend a lot on groceries and then eat out on top of that and then end up wasting more food because you didn't eat the food that you had purchased. So just find where you're at, find that balance there. Another bad habit is making late payments. So if you have credit card debt or if you have loans and you're not paying them on time, that interest does add up and you end up paying back a lot more than you had borrowed. So pay your debt off on time and pay your bills on time. And the last bad money habit is not educating yourself on personal finance. So this takes effort, you guys. This takes initiative. It's not just going to happen over time, but you have to realize that you want to have better control over your money, and you have to put in the effort and you have to apply yourself. And I'm not over here like I got it all figured out and I'm this like big financial guru. I've had to learn some hard lessons myself when it comes to finances. I've had to work my way out of debt, credit card debt. I've even owed the IRS money. I've had to adjust my spending and stop living above my means. So I know it's doable. I know, if you set your mind to it, if you set up a plan, you can get out of debt. Honestly, what helped me the most is, I would say, paying my tithe and giving my offerings and just being a faithful steward of what God has given me. So, the tithe is spiritual, and God does help you if you give him control of your finances. He will help you break the curse of poverty, and he will help you be a better steward of your finances if you let him, if you honor him with the tithe and if you're generous with your giving. So it does, the Bible teaches us to be good stewards of our money. We reap where we sow. And it even says that the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. So, once again, planning is so important. It'll help you grow or help you thrive in your finances. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about money habits. I don't know where you fall. If you're struggling to get a better hold of your finances, or if you have learned some lessons and you are better now with your finances than you were in the past. So comment in the section below, or you can follow me on Instagram and leave a comment there. All right, so that brings me to my book recommendation for this week. And the book is Get Good with Money by Tiffany Alice Shea. Once again, not a sponsor, but this is a great book helping break down finances and living within your means and budgeting and just kind of simplifying the process. If you're looking for a book on finances, I definitely encourage this one. And then, of course, anything by Dave Ramsey as well. I'm a big fan of him. So I want to challenge you this week to look at your finances. Do you have a budget? If not, I encourage you to start one, whether it's downloading an app or just using good old-fashioned pen and paper. Write down your income, all your incomes, all your expenses, and make necessary adjustments, whether it's canceling some subscriptions or spending less on groceries or eating out less. So, this is very practical. These are practical ways you can change your money habits, and just try that. So if you're on top of it and you've got your life together and you got all your savings and your debts paid off and all that, I encourage you to help others that might be struggling in this area. All right, well, that is it for today, folks. I would like to thank you for joining me here in the waiting room. Look out for my next episode. In the meantime, please share this podcast with a friend. I'd love to hear your feedback regarding this topic. Like I mentioned, you can email thewaitingroom@gmail.com, or you can follow me on Instagram and leave a comment. Until then, take care.